There are a ton of builds in Destiny, and with Frontiers on the horizon, I asked you all what you thought was the best build for every subclass on each class. Those votes and responses are what sparked this series to life, and I'm making these videos in hopes that they can be used as refreshers for current players and complete guides for new players looking to hop into the game. All of these builds will not be using the seasonal artifact and can be used in any endgame content that you would like to do. So if you want a build to work towards that should last theoretically forever, look no further. Once everything is posted, there will be a total of 18 builds for you to chase after, so if you're curious about another playstyle, definitely be sure to check them all out. I've been working on this project for quite a while, and it has definitely taken a long time, so I really hope you all can enjoy them. If it wasn't for you, series like this could not exist, so I just wanted to say thank you. And finally, if you are new here and enjoying the content, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff and joining our Discord server. All of your support really does go a long way and is genuinely appreciated. But without further ado, thanks for clicking on the video, and let's jump right into the build. All right, next up for Strand, we're going to be talking about the Titan. Strand Titan is one of those builds that has always been pretty good, and even throughout its lifespan, it's been able to do some crazy things like pretty much insta-killing bosses, and even making you and somewhat to a degree your team unkillable. Things have changed since then, and some of those strategies aren't as effective now, but overall, this build is still very strong, and you can get a ton of mileage out of it. So if you want a very aggressive build that plays heavy into buffing your melee damage, this is the one for you. All right, jumping right into it, let's take a look at our exotic armor, and there are going to be two exotics you can run for this build. One being Worm God's Caress and the other being Synthoceps. Both of these exotics will buff your melee damage in two different ways, and they also have an additional benefit that goes alongside that. With Synthoceps, you have Biotic Enhancement, so when you're surrounded, you're going to gain increased melee damage and super damage, and you also get increased weapon handling and reload speed. And then with Worm God's Caress, if you have Burning Fist, every single time you defeat a target with a melee or finisher, it's going to grant you a stacking melee damage bonus that can go up to 5 times. And then on top of that, this stacking bonus will also grant you a small bonus to your weapon damage. So between the two, in my opinion, Synthoceps is going to give you a lot more mileage. It is easier to keep up, easier to use, but Worm God's Crest does technically grant you more melee damage. So if you want to just go into pure melee damage, get as much as possible, you're going to want Worm God's Crest. And again, you also do get that increased weapon damage if you are kind of playing into a weapon slash melee focused build. But you also have to remember Synthoceps will actually gain you increased super damage as well alongside the melee energy. It's also easier to use, and your super is a pretty vital part of this build as well because of the subclass that we are running. Now speaking of that, let's go on and jump right into it because this is going to play a very crucial part of how this build works. First off, we're going to be running Banner of War. Defeat a target with a melee attack, finisher, or sword to raise a Banner of War that pulses with energy, periodically healing nearby allies and increasing melee and sword damage. Targets defeated by you and nearby allies charge the banner, increasing the speed of its pulses. So Banner of War is essentially a buff you're just permanently going to have on you 24/7 because you always want to go for melee kills, and all you have to do to increase its duration is just to get kills. This is going to passively grant you more melee damage alongside healing over and over and over again. And then the more kills you get, the more stacks you'll get, going up to ×4. So these pulses will be quicker, and it makes you almost unkillable with the amount of healing that you do get. The cherry on top is that these pulses will also heal your team, so you can kind of view it as a support build in a way. But the main benefit is that it's going to keep you alive while you're playing very aggressively. And another way we're going to do that is actually going to be with our other aspect, and that is going to be Into the Fray. So destroying a tangle or casting your super grants Woven Mail for nearby allies. While you have Woven Mail, your melee regeneration is increased. So this is going to be one of our main ways of granting Woven Mail. Woven Mail is going to give us a massive amount of damage reduction, and then pairing that with the healing for Banner of War, you can be very, very aggressive. On top of that, whenever you have Woven Mail, you're going to get increased melee regeneration right now, and this is obviously very good for a melee based build. Since you will permanently have Woven Mail all the time, you will get a constant uptime of this increased regeneration, and it makes the build more fluid to play. But now let's talk about the abilities. Obviously, our only choice is going to be Frenzy Blade. Frenzy Blade is honestly very, very good with this. It can do a ton of damage. It also severs targets as well, so if you don't get the melee kill, or whatever enemy that's in front of you is going to be doing less damage to you until you do eventually kill it. Now, next up is going to be our Grapple. Honestly, you can run whatever grenades you want to. It's not too important, but grapple is very good because you can go in for the grapple melee. The grapple melee will take the benefits from everything else that we've already been going over, so you can get a ton of melee damage with your grenade as well, essentially. Now, for a barricade, I just like Rally Barricade because it does have the lowest cooldown, but taking Tower Barricade also is pretty respectable because if you are in a sticky situation, you can put this giant barricade up just to live a little bit longer. And then finally is Blade Fury. Obviously, this is the only super we have, but since this is a roaming super, you're going to get this charged very, very quickly. So you can use this pretty much all the time. Blade Fury is disgusting. It can spin targets. You can absolutely just shred everything on the battlefield, and you're also unkillable because of that Woven Mail. And again, if you do run something like Syntheseps, you will also get that increased super damage as well. So Blade Fury is disgustingly strong for this. And whenever you're in a sticky situation, say your melee didn't get a kill, or you get into an area and a lot of enemies come in, you can just pop this and you are completely safe. And then for the fragments, first off, we're going to be taking Thread of Warding. So if we pick up an Orb of Power, it's going to grant us Woven Mail. So this is another way to grant Woven Mail. We have Into the Fray. We also have Warding. If you don't feel like you're getting a lot of value out of Warding, you could definitely swap this out for something else. But I just like to make sure I will have Woven Mail up all the time because I always want to have Into the Fray proc, and also just the ability to not die. Now, our next fragment is going to be Thread of Fury. So whenever you damage targets with a Tangle, it will grant us melee energy. This is great because, again, if we throw the Tangle, it's going to grant us Woven Mail because of Into the Fray. If we throw it at a group of enemies, it's also now going to grant us melee energy, which is what we want because we want to spam our melee all the time. And that Woven Mail that we're getting also is giving us even more melee. So this is great for just giving us extra melee energy and synergizing everything. Now, next up is Thread of Transmutation. So whenever we have Woven Mail, a weapon final blow can create a Tangle. Yes, your Frenzy Blade can already create tangles because of the sever that it does provide. Even your grapple melee because it unravels targets. But if you're having a situation where your tangle cooldown is up, this is going to allow you to make another tangle without really having to use one of your abilities. Because again, you're going to have Woven Mail all the time. So this just means you can now also make tangles all the time off cooldown. And then finally, it's just Thread of Generation. So whenever we deal damage, it's going to generate grenade energy. If you're not playing into your grenade too much, you can swap this out for anything. But I would highly recommend playing into grapple for the grapple melee. And now you can just spam your grapple melees a lot more because of this fragment. Now for weapons with this build, this is actually one that's going to matter quite a lot. You for sure want to run at least one weapon with 1-2 punch. Whenever you hit all your pellets on a target, or nearly all your pellets, it's going to increase your melee damage for a short time. So you can basically shoot a shotgun shot, and now your Frenzy Blade is just going to do a ton of damage. I would highly recommend if you can get one with Perfect Paradox, because it can come with things like Pugilist, which also is a melee based perk, but mainly it has Cast of Shadows. So whenever you do melee damage, it's going to increase this weapon's handling alongside also granting ammo for reserve. So basically, you never have to reload this thing. You get the damage, you can melee. The melee does a lot of damage. You're going to proc something like Pugilist, and then you also just basically reload the gun. It is very, very good for this build, and also other melee builds as well. But the next up is going to be just a glaive. Glaives work with this is going to get all the bonuses that we were talking about. The glaives can absolutely do a ton of damage. Honestly, any glaive works for you. Any 1-2 punch shotgun will work for you. If you want to swap it out and maybe run something like the Stasis Strand one, you can have choke clip on the Stasis one, just, you know, for champions of the sort, then have a 1-2 punch energy shotgun. That is totally doable. It's honestly up to you. I just like Perfect Paradox because it does have a very, very nice origin trait to play into this. But again, just 1-2 punch and a glaive. They will both work very, very well. And then for your heavy, Tractor Cannon is honestly nice because you can debuff targets, make enemies not shoot you. It has very, very good mileage for the setup, but it's not needed. You can run pretty much anything you would like to, and it will still do just fine. And then for these stats, 100 resilience is for sure the way to go to get your 30% damage reduction. On Titan, this also does increase your class ability cooldown, so you can get your barricade a little bit faster. Obviously, 100 strength, so we get our melees back faster. And then I opt in to take 70 discipline because, again, playing into this grapple melee is very strong since you can also get all the benefits that we were already talking about. Now, for the armor mods, this is what I'm running if you would like to copy them down, but as a further look, I do like to run a Siphon mod. Now I have a kinetic Siphon in because if I am running something like Perfect Paradox, I maybe can get a double kill with that, make an orb that's going to grant Woven Mail. If you're playing war into just a primary weapon, definitely be sure to swap this out for whatever elemental weapon that you are running. Just having this just so you can make a guaranteed orb whenever you need it for that Woven Mail proc is so nice. Next up, it's going to be hands-on, so we gain bonus super energy on melee kills. Since Blade Fury again is a Roman super, it's inherently already going to recharge very quick. This just adds more super energy on top of that, and it's going going to allow you to spam your Blade Fury quite a lot. Next up is going to be Dynamo for that exact same situation. So whenever you use your class ability near targets, it's going to grant you super energy. Since you have 100 resilience, you're going to get this barricade back very quickly. So this is just some more super that you can get. Now for our arms, I do like to take a heavy-handed. So whenever I get a melee kill, I will make an orb. This is nice because if I do go on for a frenzy blade kill, I will make an orb. That orb will then proc woven mel, and it makes going in for melees very, very easy, and you don't really have to stress about dying. Now the next two are impact deduction and focusing strike. So whenever I deal melee damage, I will get grenade cooldown, and then where I do melee damage, I will get class ability cooldown. This is great because obviously for Frenzy Blade, the whole point is to use that, but this also works with Grapple Melee. So you can go in for Grapple Melee and you will also proc these mods as well, alongside Heavy Handed. Grapple Melee can also proc Heavy Handed. Now for our chest piece, always go with resistant mods. Just be sure to swap this out for whatever content that you are going into. And then for the boots, I do take a recuperation. So if I pick an orb up, I will get health. This is obviously very good paired with Woven Mel. So we pick that orb up, we get Woven Mel, we get a chunk of health. You're pretty much unkillable, alongside the Banner of War and everything of the sort. Invigoration and Absolution. So with Invigoration, I will get melee energy whenever I pick an orb up. This is lets you spam your melee even more since you're making orbs anyway. And then with the Absolution, you're going to get cooldown for everything. And it's better to run something like an Absolution this slot instead of double Invigoration, because you will actually get more mileage out of it, because there are diminishing returns if you do run two of the same mod. So run an Absolution, you will get some more energy while also just providing extra energy for your grenade and class ability, which is always great. Now for our class item, I do like to take a proximity ward, so I get a powerful overshield when I go for a finisher. Since this is a very aggressive build, you will honestly be going for finishers quite a lot. So this just means whenever you go for that finisher, you're not going to die. Powerful attraction, so whenever you use my class ability, I pick up all the orbs around me. Again, you can spam your barricade a lot with this build, so being able to just pick all the orbs up, which again in return will proc all of our boot mods alongside things like Woven Mel. It is very, very good. And since I do run double special between a glaive and a shotgun, I do like to run special finisher because we're not really using our armor charge for anything else. So whenever we get a target weak, we can go for that finish. We're going to be unkillable, and now we can make special ammo, and we have pretty much infinite special ammo for both of our weapons. Since the main part of the build is doing melee damage anyway, you really only have to use your ammo for the pure utility purposes of both of these. And then like I do at the end of all these videos, I want to talk about the artifact. Obviously you don't have to run the artifact for this build to be good, but there is not a single problem in the world if you want to run something in the artifact. There are a bunch of mods that do play into Strand this season that would help out. You can get unraveling orbs for a Strand weapon. You can make threatlings basically with your grapple melee, because your grapple melee will unravel targets. You can even play into more unravel with something like 2 shreds. You can have more ammo with Jeff Finisher. There's a lot of crazy things you can do, and when Frontiers comes around, there's probably also going to be a lot of crazy things. So if you see anything to do with Woven Mel, Sever, Unravel, anything of the sort, or just melee damage in general, definitely be sure to come in here and click on these, and it will amplify your build quite a lot. And then for the absolute final part of the build, this is the Transmog I'm running on the Titan. Obviously I went for these zeros in one shader again to play into that dark Strand theme look that I'm going for all 3 of these videos on the Strand series. I did take advantage of one of the new Synthesteps ornaments. I went for a very brawler themed look. Obviously there's a lot of crazy chainmail and spikes and horns going on, but overall I do think it turned out looking pretty cool. And if you want to make your Titan look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. But all right, that is going to do it for the Strand Titan. Let me know what you all think about it down below. Again, this is a very aggressive build. If you're playing it slow, honestly you're going to be at more risk of dying than if you were to just play aggressive, because you're not going to be getting all the benefits that the build does provide. While you can solo things with this build, it is a little risky because you could just randomly die to something since you're just kind of running up everywhere. But in team play, you're going to be extremely tanky, taking all the aggro, just doing a ton of melee damage in general, and it's a blast to play. But as always, if you all were a veteran player and watched this all the way through, I truly appreciate it and hope you learned at least one thing new. And if you are a new or returning player, I wish you all the best of luck in putting this build together for yourself. Anyways, that's going to do it all for me. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.